So let's get to our training. Now, as you can see, we are going to have two use cases. First one, which I'm going to share, it's a really basic one. And another one, we are trying to use some automations in the mirror connection columns, right? So this is basically a manager board. And then there will be a task board, which I'm going to open it here. Okay. So again, basically, many a times I hear that, there is a manager board where basically they assign some task to the team member or just one person. And then the requirement is that person is going to work on basically their board, right? It's a individual board where you have certain tasks, right, which manager a lot. But then manager need not go to this board again and again and check the status, right? So basic requirement is there's a manager board, which is a higher level board, and there is a lower level board. And we want to connect these two boards so that manager doesn't have to go back and forth, and also the team member doesn't have to continuously update the manager. In case there is a need, then only you should reach out to manager. Otherwise, on manager's board, manager will get all the updates. So that's our basic use case. Now, this is just a simple board, standard board, which I just created before this training, as you can see. And I want to show you how to build those mirror columns. That is why I did not build it before. So this is just a blank board, which I just launched, and I just created this one line item, which is Shweta's task. And then going to Shweta's task board, again, it's a blank board. And then there will be, so item, basically there will be different tasks here and the statuses and due date, if you may. Now I want to connect this board to the higher level board. So on manager board, basically, whenever I want to connect any other board, whether it is lower level board, and we are going to build the lower level board, we are going to treat this board as a lower level. But in general, if you want to connect any other board, all you do is you go here and add this particular column here, connect boards. And then when you're adding that, it will always ask you to select the board. So now I'm going to select this Shweta's task. Now, very important step here, which we may tend to forget sometimes because it's here. It's not visible here anywhere, but you have to, whenever you connect two boards, this is here, which is not clicked by default. You have to do that. So our requirement here is we want the status update of Shweta's task on manager boards, right? So then we want to create this two-way connection. So this click is very important, because if you miss this click, and then let's say that you connect it as it is without clicking this, then there is only one-way connection and not a two-way connection. And then if you start working already on the board, and then there are some already connections, and then later on you cannot add this two-way connection. You have to add it when you're creating a board or creating the connection. Sorry. So I selected a board. I also selected create two-way connection, and then I'm connecting these boards. Also, I'm creating a mirror column, and by default it's selected task status. I'll let it be. Now, so the board connection is added, mirror is also added, and now if I go to Shweta's board here, automatically the column is also added here. Right. So now I want that all these task status should be somehow connected to my manager update here in my Shweta's task here, so that my manager is getting all the update in this mirror column, because this is a status column we have selected. So there are several ways of doing this. One way is Shweta can just come here basically, and this is the manual method, but I want to show you how to do that automatically also, but first I will show you manually. So let's say I have two tasks here. So all I have to do is just select it, and I'm going to go here because I want to connect it to my manager board. So whenever I will do this, then I'll have to connect it to Shweta task. And once it is connected, now I'll show you on the manager board. If I go, because the status mirror column is here, it's showing me that 50% is done. So this is a manual way. But what happens, so every time there's a new task, basically I will have to come here and click this, right? Which can be, I may, or which can, like if there are more number of tasks, then I may tend to forget it. So there is a automatic way to do this too. So I'm gonna just delete this one and show you how to do that automatically. So on this board, all I have to do is, these are already connected. So I have to go to this default column, item default values, if you know. So you have these item default, if you know this feature where you can automatically default a value to particular column. Let's say it can be date or a cost. You must have used it for number column, where you can automatically have set these values, and whenever the new item is created, it will automatically have that value. So we are going to use this feature here. So basically all I'm doing is going into the item default value, and over here I'm gonna connect it to this item here, because on my manager board there is one item which is Shweta task. So once I do that and I save changes, and whenever there is new item created, so earlier I created a new item, there was no connection, but now because I saved the default value, item 3, you see now automatically is connected to Shweta task. And if I go to manager board, instead, now this will get updated in a second. Instead of these two were already connected, but now third item also will be here. I refresh this. So you see now all the three items are connected here. So I don't have to go again, and whenever there is a new task, I'm working on that task, I don't have to take this extra step, which is unnecessary. We just automated that. Now this is one way of saving the default value and doing it. Right now there are other ways also. I'm going to show that in the next use case, but this will be very useful also for multiple team members. I'll show you how. What happened? Let me refresh this. Okay, now instead of manager is just managing one member, they can have multiple members, right? So then in that case, we want to have that update also. It is not just working with Shweta, it's working with Carlos too, right? So then as this is true for one team member, it can be done for multiple team members too. So I'm going to show you this. And all we have to do is just duplicate this board, and I'm going to say on those task board, I'm going to say structure and items too. Okay, and I'm going to remove this connection because I want it blank. So now it's exactly similar, just the way we started for Shweta. It's the board for Carlos. And let me check the connection if it is there for manager board. Yes, it is there. Okay, so the same thing it's true for Carlos too. Now all they have to do is basically in the default value instead of Shweta, basically, because now we have Carlos, right? going to default values, and now it has refreshed this board. Yeah. Here also we have to add the Carlos task. And once it is added, basically it will show up in Carlos. So now whenever I'm defaulting the values, instead of, now I'll add it to Carlos. That's it. So now let's say that I have some new task here, Carlos task. By default, it will connect it to Carlos. Let's refresh this. Let's try again. Carlo, by default, it will be Carlos task. And then on my manager board, basically, as and when Carlos will do his task, manager will get those updates too. And let's say Carlos add one more task. By default, it will add to Carlos. Or even this, there was some delay, so this also got connected. Good. So now all the three tasks are automatically connected to this. And manager, of course, gonna have some more tasks, or this can be again the use case which we took, that manager will have own task, and then some of the one there can be another group for his task, and then there can be another group for team's task, or he will have just one board for team task management board, and then he will have all the people's task listed here, and it's just a one-time setup manager has to do. Manager also can do it from here, or they can do it from the individual person. Either of the boards, when you are setting it up, it can be done, because this column is a two-way connection. So just to recap, first I showed you with one example, just a manager board, one team member, and that was a single there was a just we used one-way connection, the single connection. Then we can use it for multiple boards also. So on manager boards, it becomes now the board is connected to multiple columns, right? And then this one you can rename it to, earlier it was Shweta's task, but now no longer it's Shweta task, it's maybe you can say team task boards, because data is coming from individual boards. So this was one use case where we did not use any automation, we just used default values, and we came up with this solution. Now another way is just same concept, the mirror column and the connection, but little bit different use case. What if you have I'm going to go to that board now, the client's overview. It's used for mainly client where you have multiple clients, right? And all the clients are on the higher level board. So this is a client overview board where you have one line item is one client. So you have client 1, 2, 3, and again same way we so now I have just taken example of one board, client task board, right? Again, so now on the client task board, imagine that there is a different use case, so different scenario. Now all the tasks they want to track on the just one board, because they don't want that people to go, because there are same people who will be there can be similar people who will be working on these tasks, so they just don't want to create like one board for one client board per task, right? So they want to have everything on one board, only it is divided into the groups. Under client 1 there are some tasks, under client 2 there are some tasks, and so on. And these people can be repetitive, so that everybody, all the team members are just going to one board and they are seeing the task. So that's the use case. And at the same time, we want that all the tasks are getting, because this becomes now your lower level board, and all the tasks you want to connect it to the higher level board, so that as a client, as an account manager, I'll just go to this board and look at the statuses, right? I need not go to this lower level board and see what's happening under each client, right? So that's the use case. Now, again, I'm explain this. This is a lower level board. Just tasks are divided into each client, right? Under each client. Now we have used one more automation just for simplicity, that whenever my task is, any task is created under client 1, my client name changes to client 1. I have this the requirement to, because we are going to use why do we have this client name column? This is like a helper column, because we are going to use the match automation. I'll show you in a minute. If you know already about the match automation, what match automation does is basically it matches the column to the higher level board and it connects it. Earlier use case, it was just a simple, it was basic thing we did. We did not use any automation, but this is little advanced level where anything, this is client 1, so basically it will connect it with client 1 to the higher level board. So now the requirement is to have this client name, and if it is a client 1 task, then requirement is task 1 should have this status name, which is a client 1. So for that also we have used the automation. Whenever my task is created in this group, if you know this automation, whenever item is created in this group, my my client name will be client 1. And if the task is created in this particular group, then if you see, my client name will be client 2. So we just used this automation. Let me show you quickly. So as many clients, you'll just have to duplicate this automation. But and then this is optional if you want to have, because we want that automated too. So we just added this automation, but this automation is definitely optional. All you have to do is just create the task, right? And then manually you select that client. But the very important step is to have this client name, because we want something to match from this board to the higher level, right? Okay. So now, now I'm going to go to my higher level board. Let's go from here to my client overview board. Now on the similar setup, when I will create, first step is to create the mirror column, just the way I created on my higher level board. First step is to connect the two boards. So you connect the two boards, same process, connect the boards, select the boards, create two-way connection, and I just added this mirror column as a status. So that step is done. Then the second step is to build the automation, because we want that we want to use that match automation. So first key requirement was client name, right? To have the client name, because we want to identify. Then the second one, you connect the two board, right? Create a two-way connection. And the third one is match automation. Now I'm going to go directly into match automation. Now, if you have used match automation before, I am going to show you there are 3 match automation. As I explained you before, what this automation does is basically we have used this automation here. So whenever any column changes, basically it connects the item where the column matches the another column. Now I'm gonna say whenever that client name, because client name, I'm on the client board, right? Client task board. So I want to see whenever my client name changes, I want that connection in the client overview board. right? And I'm connecting using the column which I already have this column, because if you remember, we already created that connection. So I'm going to select this column, and then I'm going to say client name, because I want the client name to match the name on that board. So let me show you the automation which I have already built. So this is a very clean one. So when client name changes, I'm on client task board. When client name is a status column, if you remember, and that is why I created that column, because we need that column to match. So whenever that client name changes, connect my item on the client name, because I want that to matches the name. Name means the item name, because if you remember, on my client overview, every line item is the client name. So I want that to be matched, right? And then create the connection, right? So basically, and then that's how it is done. So now if you see, again, I'm just going to show you. Of course, it already connected here, but I'm going to show you again. So let's say there's a task 5. As soon as item is created in this room, my client name change, client 1, right? So that step is automatic, and automatically because I use that integration, that whenever my client name changes, basically match this client name in my client overview board, which is nothing but here. You match it and connect it. So that's what happened. Basic item got created. Client name got changed, and then my another automation to match this client to this client too, right? And then connect it. So if you see here, already everything is connected here. Then all the new items which are there, we are connected here, client 2. And if I change anything on my client task board, these are the items I newly created, and then there was the connection which was established. So now if I go to client overview, I'm getting that status update here. So basically, I use the same concept of mirror column and the connection, but I wanted to make it a little bit more automated. So I used the match automation, and I connected these. And just like status column, now this is a status, right? I can also mirror several other parameters too. So every time I can choose a people column or a date column if I want the timeline, right? I can do that too. So this was the use case. We used it a little differently. I know it's a lot to take, but we started with the basic, where you have a connection which is a little bit manual step, but not like every time you have to do it. You have to do it from the default value. And another use case, which is another scenario we used, and we used the match automation too.